This week on Today's Homeowner, we're tackling 5 great updates to bring this room into the 21st century. You'll see the tools and techniques to use, as well as the pitfalls and problems to avoid. This is one full half hour. These days, people are staying in their homes longer than ever before and looking for ways to update what they have. This week, we'll look at 5 very desirable updates, including how to remove texture from a popcorn ceiling, as it's commonly called, and what you have to do to prepare that ceiling so that it can be painted. Also, we hear from a lot of homeowners that are really challenged with how to successfully remove wallpaper from the wall, and again, what you have to do to that wall in order to paint it. Hey, tell me, this doesn't look out of date. Over 35-year-old floor, we're going to change that. And again, answer another question that we get all the time from viewers is, can I install ceramic tile over existing ceramic? We'll show you how you can. Also, laminate tops, removing plastic laminate and replacing it with granite. And the update that we're going to start out with is how to install recessed lighting. Our first update isn't one that's too do-it-yourself friendly. Electrical work usually calls for a pro, so our electrician Mike is laying out lines along which he'll install the recessed cans. Besides creating a symmetrical layout, the size of the fixtures and the size of the room will also influence their spacing. Mike's cutting the fixture holes with a hole saw designed specifically for this task so it collects the drywall dust instead of it raining down on his head. Since there's a second floor above this room, they'll have to trench in the ceiling to route wiring to each of these locations from the existing electrical box in the center of the room. His layout has ensured that each hole lands between ceiling joists so that there's room for the fixtures. After he pulls the wire to each location, he can connect each fixture and mount it in place. These are called remodeler cans, so every bit of the installation can be done from underneath while still delivering a clean, finished look. Hey, we just finished up our first update. That's installing the recessed lights. The guys will come back and put the trim rings around it and everything a little bit later. So our second update is removing all of the texture from a popcorn textured ceiling like this. And like I said earlier, this is something we get so many emails about, and we're going to show you a few tricks that'll make it a little bit easier. Number one, cover everything up. That's really important. And then what Mike did is he took pump-up sprayer, filled it up with really hot water and just a little bit of fabric softener, which keeps the water from evaporating so much so that it can really help to release all of the texture from the ceiling. But the number one thing in removing texture is getting it as wet as possible. So take off, Mike.
Here we go.
Ceiling texture is basically drywall joint compound with bits of styrofoam mixed into it. So we want to soak it well enough to make the compound release from the ceiling, but not so much that we damage the drywall above it. This usually means spraying each area at least twice. After it's soaked a bit, give it a test. And you can tell, Mike, this hasn't been painted because it's just coming off too darn easy. For thicker texture, more water and more time will be necessary. See, that's the problem with using just a regular drywall knife. You end up with that mess everywhere all over your feet. Now, this is supposed to address that concern. Here, hold that. What this is it's a frame that's supposed to hold that bag, and then this is the scraper, so as you're scraping, it falls right over in the bag. What do you think?
Well, let's give it a try.
It works. It works. It makes this whole process a lot easier. So.
I'm all for that.
All right, let's see what it looks like. I guess that's the right angle, huh? Come on.
That ain't bad.
Huh. Not too bad. You just sit there and watch the master. I think we got something here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think you could probably like dump it out without even taking, because that's the most aggravating part, is putting that on there. Hey, it's that easy. Even I can do it.
Nothing to it, huh?
Nothing to it. Just muscle.
This thing works pretty good, Danny.
I know it. It is pretty neat. A lot of those little things, just great ideas, but they just don't work that well.
It works good.
To work around the edges, you'll need a standard drywall knife so that you can scrape right up to the crown molding and clean the texture out of the caulk between the crown and the ceiling. I'll tell you what, Mike, that really wasn't that bad. Only took, what, about an hour to do it all?
Yeah, that's right. That new scraper really helped out a lot. It's going to save on the cleanup.
Yeah, absolutely, because usually it's just like a mess when you get through with this kind of thing. Of course, you got a little bit of cleanup around the edges there to do where they caulk the crown molding to the ceiling, but that shouldn't take long.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump on that right now.
Great, great. Hey, the next update we're going to share with you is a little bit to do with more removing something that's here, and that's wallpaper. If you ever wanted to remove wallpaper, ever tried it, can be quite a challenge. But Alan's going to drop by with a great tip that'll allow you to remove any wallpaper you have very easily. But first, let's check in with Joe Truini for this week's Simple Solution.
Once you've gone through the trouble of picking out the perfect light fixtures for your home, you want to make sure they present you in the best light. And here's a trick, especially for fixtures that you install in a bathroom above a vanity or a mirror. If the fixture has frosted shades like this one, you should install clear glass bulbs. And if it has clear shades, then you can install frosted bulbs like they do here. But in this case, we're going to replace, because we have frosted shades, we're going to replace the bulbs with clear glass ones. And what you'll find is you get a nice, clean, bright light, because you don't need the bulbs to be frosted any longer because the shades are. So we'll flip that on. I'll show you what that looks like. There you go, nice, clean light. Now the other trick with fixtures that are made for the bathroom is they can often be installed upside down. There's probably the only fixture in the world that you can install them upside down. But this one can be pointed up. So when you go to buy a light fixture for your bathroom, ask if it can be installed inverted, because sometimes you're better off bouncing the light off the ceiling.
This week we're tackling 5 great updates for your home, and we're doing them all in one kitchen. Older homes, particularly kitchens, are notorious for having inadequate lighting, so our first update was adding recessed lighting to improve the beauty and the function of this room. Because there was no attic access above the room, we had to make a bit of a mess to pull wires and set the cans, but our second update was even messier as we removed the textured popcorn ceiling surrounding these lights. Alan is about to wade into update number 3, removing wallpaper, and this kitchen has plenty of it.
As Danny mentioned, we're removing wallpaper, and I gotta tell you, it's probably in the top 20 questions that he and I get on our radio show, Homefront. Now, Danny and I also have a mutual friend by the name of Brian Santos. They call him the Wall Wizard. Well, Brian shared a formula with us, and I'm gonna share that with you that's going to make removing wallpaper so easy. Let me tell you how we got to this step right here. First of all, take a 5-gallon bucket and put about 3 gallons of hot water in it. Then you're going to mix in there 22 ounces of concentrate wallpaper remover, a cup of white vinegar, about 2 tablespoons of baking soda, and a 1/4 cup of fabric softener. Then you're going to take a paper tiger and perforate the wall. Just make sure you cover it from top to bottom, and then saturate it with that spray. I'm talking saturate it. You've only got about 15 minutes to make this work. Then we're going to take a very thin plastic, 0.7 mil, push it in place, let the water hold it by way of our wallpaper brush. And at this point, we are actually ready to remove some, because it's been about 3 hours. Paul, you ready for this? Yep. Why don't you grab that corner, pull it down. Did you notice, I don't know if you noticed this, Paul, did you see the way this was put on? This is like, this isn't big rolls, it's strips of it.
That's right.
Oh, look at this. That's not even taking a scraper to this. Isn't that something? I don't think I've ever stripped a wall this easily.
Obviously, this is much easier because the paper was applied in small overlapping pieces.
I have not picked up a scraper yet.
And all those extra edges allow the solution to get behind the paper and work on the glue. But as is often the case, this isn't going to be as easy as it seems.
All right, real often case here, we've got wallpaper under wallpaper, and this was, rather than taken down, it was painted over. A very thick layer of paint, by the way, but you can just barely make out a seam. We could come back again, take the paper tiger, score this again. It's gonna be a little tougher to score because it is painted wallpaper, but you can score it again, use the formula, and again, let it do the work for you. Cover it back up with the plastic for at least 3, probably because it's painted, I would say at least 4 to 6 hours, and then take that paper down as well.
Since we promised the homeowner we would remove the wallpaper, that's what we're going to do. But this time, we're letting it set overnight. When Mike pulls the plastic back on day 2, the results aren't what Alan and Paul had the day before. Now he needs the scraper, and when the paper does come off, it's taking the top layer of the drywall with it. The solution isn't getting through the paper very well, and apparently the drywall was never sized or prepped for wallpaper, so the wallpaper glue has soaked into the drywall paper. And now it's all coming off the wall together, leaving behind a rough, uneven mess. Since we have to repair the trench in the ceiling, we already have a call into our drywall finisher, Hayward, but it looks like now he'll have more than just a little work to do. Besides patching the holes in the ceiling, he's also putting a thin coat of joint compound over every square inch of wall surface. Well, these walls are nice and smooth. You would have never thought they would look like that a few days ago. I don't think Hayward knew what he was getting into when he came out to finish the walls. They were in pretty bad shape after we removed all of that wallpaper, but that's when you really got to call in a pro like Hayward to do all that he's done here. The ceiling looks great, the walls look great, but you may notice there's something wrong here. Well, nothing wrong really. That was left off so that we could install these glass tiles for the backsplash a little bit later, and we'll be doing that about the same time we do the ceramic on the floor. But before we do any of that, we have to get rid of this laminate countertop and install some granite countertops. We'll be doing that right after this best new product.
Installing a ceiling fan with a light kit is another great lighting option for your home. And if you're going to go to the time and expense of installing a ceiling fan, think about this. This is a neat little addition to it. This is a handheld wireless remote for your ceiling fan by Hampton Bay. Now, you don't have to have a Hampton Bay ceiling fan for this to operate because it operates a variety of brands. The nice thing about this is you can be 30 feet away from your ceiling fan and still operate it, because think about it. Usually your electrician will wire your overhead fixture in your room to have 2 switches, one for the fan and one for the light. Or if you weren't as fortunate, you had an electrician that maybe just had 1 switch at the door and it would control the light and the fan at the same time. Well, with this remote control, it doesn't matter how it was wired at the wall, you can control it with just a click of a button. Now, you can dim incandescent lights, and there's a setting for that. Or if you don't want to dim your lights, say you're using LED or fluorescent, all you do is use another setting and you can just turn the light on and off. Either way, you've got master control right here. And who doesn't need another remote control right there at their disposal?
This week we're putting together 5 great updates in one dated room. We started with the addition of recessed light fixtures to improve the look and the lighting. Then we removed the popcorn texture from the ceiling, which turned out to be a breeze. So we moved on to removing the wallpaper, which also started out easy but didn't exactly end up that way. Now it's time for the next big change, replacing the old laminate countertops with granite. Before the old tops can be pulled, the sink and cooktop have to be disconnected and removed. The owners are getting a new sink, but some of the plumbing components will be reused.
Remember now, we're reusing the garbage disposal, so we'll just set that to the side and get it out already away.
Obviously, before disconnecting something like this cooktop, you have to be sure the power is off at the breaker. Typically, laminate tops are just secured from underneath with screws, so they come out pretty easily, but larger pieces may require a little surgery.
Tell you what, let's cut it right there. Let's cut it.
After a little power tool persuasion, the cabinets are clear. Mike's adding some horizontal supports to the cabinets before the granite arrives. When it does, each piece is dry fit in place. Tony, our granite contractor, is also adding his own support under an area where 2 pieces will be seamed together. He can't afford any movement here. Once everything is leveled, the adhesive is applied to hold each piece in place. The 2 pieces being seamed are pulled together with a vacuum clamp and sealed with an epoxy adhesive. The beauty of a surface like granite is that it allows you to mount the sink from beneath the counter so that there's no rim on the surface. It's a convenient feature, but it also creates a really clean look in the kitchen. Where the counters meet sidewalls, we're adding a 4-inch granite side splash so the glass tile that's coming later won't overpower the room. You know, I've installed a lot of different types of granite in a lot of different kitchens, but I don't believe I've ever installed one that looks just like this. It actually has kind of a unique name, St. Cecilia, but it looks great and it ties in well with the color that the homeowners have picked out. And Michael's in the process of working hard to get a coat of paint on everything, because tomorrow morning the 5th great update gets started, and that's the installation of the ceramic over the existing ceramic. Now that's a question we get all the time. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, can I install ceramic over existing ceramic? Well, this is one of the best case scenarios because it's nice and smooth, not a lot of rolls in the floor, none of the tiles seem to be cracked or no loose grout anywhere, and also the tile being installed on top of this will still have a nice smooth transition into the adjacent rooms. But what will really change the look of this room and really update it is that instead of the old 8x8 tiles that were so popular for so many years, we're going back with a 20x20. After lots of measuring and remeasuring, Joe, our tile setter, opts to center the tiles on the area between the 2 rows of cabinets. He's starting on that end so that he lays out all of the cuts first, especially the complex ones, to make sure that everything fits before they begin mixing the thin set. This stuff is the key to laying tile over tile. Joe's using a high-quality thin set mix that's modified with latex to give it extra bonding power. As the 20x20 tiles cover up the old 8x8s, it's obvious that this update will improve the look of this room immensely. Because the old tile had several dips and valleys in it, Joe adds extra thin set to the back of the tiles here and there to compensate and level the new floor. Once the grout is applied and cleaned, the floor is complete and the tile setters move on to finish off the counters with that glass tile backsplash we saw earlier. Because these small pieces are pre-patterned in interconnecting 12x12 mats, the backsplash goes quickly, and in no time, this room is thoroughly updated.
Jesse asks, are compact fluorescent bulbs really worthwhile? I heard they have mercury in them. Are there any other options?
Yes, I definitely think CFLs are worthwhile, especially if you compare it to a traditional incandescent bulb. Now, a 60-watt bulb like this is expected to last around 1,200 hours, but a CFL, 8,000 hours. And for the same amount of light you're getting out of this 60-watt bulb, you can get it here for about 13 to 15 watts. Now, the CFLs do contain a little bit of mercury, but if it breaks or if it goes bad, you need to handle it carefully, put it in a resealable plastic bag, and dispose of it properly. Now, another option, and you're hearing a lot about LEDs because they last 50,000 hours, and for the same light that you would get out of the 60-watt bulb, you're getting it here for only 6 to 8 watts. This room was functional enough, but the surfaces gave away its age, so we gave it 5 great updates. On the ceiling, we added recessed light fixtures and removed the popcorn texture. On the walls, we removed the wallpaper, both the layer that cooperated and the one that didn't, so that we could roll on a cool new color. The old laminate counters gave way to new slabs of granite, and the tiny old tile floors were covered up with a large porcelain tile that look a lot like travertine marble. Whether you do one or all 5 of the updates we've covered in this show, it's sure to make a big improvement in your home. But here's what you need to do. Look at what you have and look at what you need, and then measure that against your budget, the time you have to spend on it, and the skill level that you have. But jump in there and take on one of these projects. It's so gratifying once it's all complete. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you soon. Yeah, I'll let you do that. Hey now, what we're about, hey now.